So this ambulance has a pretty crazy history, but I ended up with the very rig that inspired me to look into van life in the first place. So I drove across Colorado to show James what had become of his old build. So this ambulance has a pretty crazy history. I am not the first owner by any means, and the plan was to build something just like this. But I ended up with the very rig that inspired me to look into van life in the first place. And the guy who had built this rig hadn't seen it in probably over a year. And so I hit him up and figured that it was probably time for the rig to be reunited with its maker, to show James what had become of his old build. And while I was there, we knocked out a few projects and gave the van some much needed attention. So the story behind the van is, it's like I said, it's crazy. 3 years ago, when I was inspired to do the whole van life thing, I kept coming back to James's videos, and I'd been studying his build because I wanted to do something just like it. And at a time when I was looking for a new place to live, this thing pops up on Marketplace, which I was not expecting. And around that same time, I was fortunate enough to receive this inheritance that I wasn't ever sure that I would ever see. So in a miraculous way, all of these things fell into place, and I was able to pick up the van that I studied for years. James is a super cool dude. I'd been watching his videos for a long time. Like I said, I studied his videos because he seemed like he knew what he was talking about, seemed like a very knowledgeable guy when it comes to mechanics and just overall the whole van life build, because not only did he build something that was pleasant to look at, but it was extremely functional. And so I was super happy to connect with him, and he invited me over to his place, just be reminded of where the business started and the whole goal behind it. It was so cool to see James be reunited with the van because you could tell he has some sentimental attachment to it, and he spent a lot of time in it, and this is where he started his business. Speaking of the business, it was in his business where he ended up giving away this van to kind of kickstart Expedition Ranch. That is where the previous owner, Gina, had won the van. So getting into the projects, there were a couple of things. We knew that we wanted to film a video, but he was allowing me to stay at his hangar house for a couple days and do some maintenance on it while I was there and had access to his tools. James was super nice to let me use his tools in his space to do this work on the van. It desperately needed a tire rotation, and we wanted to up the look by redoing the front bumper. So first I started with the tire rotations. At this point, I had probably put about 4,000 miles on the tires up until the point where I was at his place, and they were showing some obvious signs of needing a rotation. So we jacked up the truck, and with a little help from James, figured out where to put each tire in the rotation. This was my first time doing tire work on a dually. There's a couple things I'm really trying to keep up with the maintenance as far as living on the road, like making sure I'm doing the oil changes before 5,000. Honestly, I'll probably continue to do them closer to 3,000 miles between each oil change. It was definitely nice to be able to use some of James's tools, but it did make me realize that there are some tools that I should probably have when I'm on the road. I do have quite a few tools, but not necessarily everything that I need. I've just recently discovered I have a jack that will lift the truck, but I need to get something to put under the jack in order to get the jack high enough to lift the truck to the point I need to do maintenance on it. Those are some things I'm going to be looking forward to purchasing, and having everything that I need to do an oil change on the road I think is also important. Next, I started to work on the bumper. This was a lot of fun. There is a lot of new experiences for me. I had never actually used a sandblaster, but when James had painted the bumper originally, he hadn't stripped down past the original chrome and painted over it. So by the time that I got it, it was chipping really bad, and it was just very obvious that it was worn and the paint was rubbing off. So he let me use his sandblaster, and I blasted it all the way down to the metal and got it really clean before moving on to paint. So my first mistake was painting it outside. I don't have video of this, but basically the wind was like blowing dust into the wet paint, and So we moved the bumper inside to paint it away from anything that would get some overspray. But I sanded it down, repainted it again, put on several coats, and I'd say it looks pretty dang good. So with that and a little more deep cleaning, we were off to film this video. Now James has way more experience and equipment than I do when it comes to the whole filming stuff. And so he got some incredible B-roll. He got some incredible footage of the van. I know he's using it for some of his personal promotional stuff. And here's just a look at his channel from the YouTube page. So I know this video is quite different from anything else that I've pretty much done in the past, but I really wanted to showcase this trip that I had over to James's place, and I just wanted to say big thanks to James and Roan for hosting me and just hanging out. It was so much fun hanging out with these guys, and it was just so cool seeing James reconnect with this build that he obviously has some sentimental value with. And that basically concludes the trip. I really didn't have a ton to work with on this video. I wish I was better about recording the things that were going on, but James was super busy, and I was just trying to get things done before when we were trying to get this video filmed. So you really should go over to his channel and watch the video that we made. It's like a full in-depth tour. It's super good quality, super fun to watch. Also just supporting James and what he's doing as his business is supporting protecting public lands, which is, I just love that. So as always, appreciate you guys watching and subscribing, and looking forward to the next couple of videos to get out to you. So thanks for watching, and tight lines.